All right, guys, to begin, I'm going to let my pan warm up. I'm going to turn the heat really, really low. That way I'm not worried about it getting too hot. So this is just so I have my pan warm while we do everything else. One of the reasons that we don't want to have our pan screaming hot, just turn it on and leave it alone, is because if I put something in there with my screaming hot pan, what's going to happen? It's going to burn, just like that. So I have my pan warm, I don't have it screaming hot. So when I'm ready, all I have to do is turn it up a little bit more instead of having to wait for the pan to warm up. So I have a piece of salmon right here for you guys. This one has the skin on. Now, your recipe calls for to leave the skin on, which you can totally do. It's completely up to you. I personally love the skin only because you get that nice crispness to it, but it's up to you guys. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to take the skin off. All right, so we're gonna take our salmon, and as you guys can see, we still have our skin on. So the easiest way to do this, we're going to start by removing the vein that's right inside there. That right there is gonna be super crispy, it's super hard. Nobody wants to eat that. We wanna take that out before we even get started. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take just the very, very tip of my knife, I'm gonna go underneath it, and then I'm gonna pop it right out. So popped it right out. Now I'm gonna hold it while I take my knife and go backwards. And again, the reason for that, I want to be as careful as I can be to remove as little as possible, because if I paid good money for this, I wanna eat it all. All right, now that I've checked for my little pin bones, I don't have any pin bones inside, so I'm gonna remove the skin from the fish. So what I wanna do is I'm gonna take my knife and I'm gonna make an incision, leaving just a little bit of room on one side. So this is what I'm gonna grab onto. So I made just that little slice right there. Can everybody see? So I am right-handed, so I'm gonna hold it with my left hand, and I'm gonna go underneath, just enough to get my knife underneath. Then from here, with my left hand, I'm going to pull the skin, so this way, it comes right off. Then we go on the other side to make sure that we removed all the silver skin. So with every other protein, when we sear anything off, we always go skin side first. And fish does not normally follow that rule. But with this one, we are actually going to do skin side first. So if you guys had chosen, we would have left our skin on the fish. What happens when we pan fry fish like that? The skin gets super crispy, super crunchy, and it's delicious. If you like that, some people don't. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna heavily season our fish and we're gonna get searing off. All right, so what we're gonna do, a little bit of oil, and again, that's the cool thing because I can control how much oil I wanna use. All right, so what I have done is taken all of the spices that we have on our list and mixed them together into a bigger batch. This is what I actually use to cook the tacos that we're gonna be eating in a little bit. But this way it makes it a little bit easier for me, so I don't have to measure this one out, so it's all together. So this is everything that is on the recipe. It's just pre-mixed. So this already has the salt, it has the pepper, it has the Old Bay, it has everything that we need inside. So I'm going to put this down in just a moment. So I want to make sure that my pan is nice and hot. So how do we make sure our pan is nice and hot? Do you ask it, consult somebody, the stars, nothing? Water, yes, just a drop of water. If it sizzles, we know it's just about ready. All right, so I'm leaving my fish alone. It's important that we get a good sear on both sides if we want to be able to flip it without it falling apart. And I'm gonna walk around to show you guys, but you're gonna see a line creeping up the salmon. That's gonna let us know that it's cooking. All right, it's time to flip. All right, so we are actually going to use a fish spatula to flip our fish over. If you don't have one at home, you can use a regular spatula. Because this is so thin and so flexible, it makes it easier for me to get under the fish without ripping it. So if you do have one, fantastic. If you don't, a regular spatula is fine. We also want to be very careful when we're cooking our fish. If we overcook our fish, we end up with really rubbery, just nasty fish. We want to cook our fish to a minimal internal temperature of 145 degrees. If you guys don't have a thermometer at home, I would absolutely recommend getting one if you can. This one, for instance, $7. Super cheap, and then we'll never overcook our food again. So if we're cooking a steak, for instance, if we were cooking something rare, it would be 125 to 130. So we want to always do our best to keep in mind that we don't want to overcook our food, and the smoke is great. We don't want to overcook our food because then we end up really rubbery. And everybody likes things a little bit differently. Some people prefer their stuff well done. Some people prefer their stuff to temp. So it's up to you guys. It's up to what you feel most comfortable with. But break out once in a while. Try something different. All right, so that's going to be done in just a second. I'm going to let it finish off. While that's going, we're going to do our cabbage for our slaw. So how many of you guys have cut a cabbage before? Everybody. I'm going to show you the easy way that we can cheat, and we won't have to worry about getting those large pieces of the core inside. So if we look, we have the core at the very bottom, right? So the easiest way to do this is to cut directly from the core. So we cut straight down. So you guys can see that we have a core right here, right? So we're going to pop that right out. We're going to take our knife, and we're going to cut in on this side. Then we're going to go exactly the same on the other side. And it comes right out. So this way, we don't end up with, oh, this is... So we don't have to deal with that. The easy way to do it from here, cut it in half again. And then take your guys' time. Everybody has a different preference. Some people want it skinny. Some people want it fat. It's completely up to you. It's your world. It's your dinner. You do what you like. So all we're going to do is chop it really quick. And this way, we have no enormous core on the inside to have that really heavy, awful, terrible crunch on. So easy as pie. But I'll show you guys one more time. All right, we are at 133, so we are almost there. Another couple minutes, we'll pull our fish out and allow it to rest inside the bowl. While we're doing that, let's get to our chipotles. And the reason that I'm going to wear gloves is because I always forget that I touch peppers and then I touch my eyes every single time. So if you have gloves at home, I would recommend using them. If not, wash your hands a million times afterwards so you're not crying later on. So for our chipotles, we're going to pull it out. We're going to open it up. Now, these are always full of a ton of seeds. It's up to you if you guys want to keep the seeds inside. I always say to take them out. So I'm going to take all of my seeds out. And then I'm going to mince it as soon as I get my fish out. So what I'm going to do for my fish is I'm simply going to put it in a bowl. Whatever bowl you have at home is fine. Cereal bowl, a sheet pan, whatever you have is okay. So all we're going to do is put it inside the bowl. And we're going to give it just a moment to cool down so it's not so hot when we're trying to flake it apart. If you don't want your food spicy, you could do roasted garlic. Or you could simply omit the spice altogether. Aioli only means olive oil and garlic, essentially. So if we didn't want to do a chipotle aioli, we could do a bell pepper aioli, or we could do a roasted garlic aioli, or we could do... There are so many different options. Even if you didn't want to do the aioli at all, do sour cream. Because I know a lot of people don't like super, super spicy food, but then there's also everybody on the other end who wants it to be even hotter. So if you want to do habaneros, it's so good. Oh, it's so good. So for our aioli, we're going to mince up our chipotle. We want to cut it as small as we can. If you guys want to use a food processor or a RoboCoupe or whatever, you're more than welcome to. So this is right now a paste. From here, we're going to do our lemons. So our recipe calls for a ½ ounce of lemon juice. For the really juicy lemons, that's going to be almost a full lemon most of the time. So get a couple extra, and if you have them, you can put them in drinks later. There you go. If you don't want to do lemons on this one, if you want to do limes on this one, you're more than welcome to. If you want to do oranges, if you want to do grapefruit, there's no limit to what you guys can do. Any citrus fruit that you want to do, go for it. So, and when you're selecting lemons or whatever citrus fruits from the supermarket, make sure it has some give. We don't want it to be soft and mushy, but we want it to be able to sink our fingers in just a little bit. Otherwise, it's not ripe, it's not ready to go yet. And we're going to end up getting a lot more juice from it if we roll it first. It really releases all of those juices, and it makes it a lot easier for us to get to it as well. All right, so I'm going to show you a trick to cutting lemons. If we're cutting lemons for drinks, we would go from this end to this end. But we're not cutting this for drinks. We're cutting this because we want to get the maximum amount of juice out of here. So we're actually going to cut it the opposite way, across the equator. Okay, so from here, most of our lemons, most of our limes, our grapefruits, our oranges, whatever, they do come in seedless varieties, but if you don't want to get the seedless, all we need to do is hold one hand over our bowl and squeeze the lemon inside so that our seeds fall into our hand and not into our bowl. So the reason that we cut it this way is so that now, so we've squeezed all the juice out, right? We've squeezed it twice, one way then the other. But we still have all of this juice still inside. So this is the money saver. This is the way that we get our cents back. What you can do is take your fingers and go inside and press along the walls of the lemon, of the lime, of the grapefruit, of whatever citrus fruit you want. And we'll get a bunch of additional juice from it. All right, now from here, we're going to add our mayonnaise to it. If you want to do the whole fat mayonnaise, you're more than welcome to. If you want to do the light mayonnaise, which is made with, I think it's 50% oil, 50% water, and then of course we have the fat-free, which is made all with water. It's going to depend on what you want to do. You can also do sour cream, you can do creme fraiche, you can do yogurt. So this right here is the simplest form of our aioli. So it's salt and pepper to your taste. We have our lemon juice, we have our chipotle. Then all we're going to do from here is add our mayo. So if we made it too strong, oh, that's too salty, oh, that's too much lemon juice, that's too much chipotle, that's too much whatever. We can simply add a little bit more mayo to it to thin it out so that it's not so terribly strong. All right, so I'm simply going to hit this with a little bit of salt and pepper, but you guys are going to get to see what consistency it's generally going to look like. And depending on, so with a lot of these cans of chipotle, they come in the adobo sauce, right? So if you didn't feel like cutting up all of the peppers and you just wanted the heat, you could just the juice. Or if we're looking at our aioli and we think, that's not red enough, that's not going to warn my guests about how spicy this is going to be, you can also add just a little bit of the adobo to change the color of the aioli completely. It's totally up to you. Our last item is the salmon itself. So after we've allowed it to sit there for just a moment, we've covered it with plastic only to make sure that the heat stays inside. If we just leave it on the counter for a minute, a lot of us have pets, a lot of us have kids, a lot of us have a lot of stuff going on. So keep it covered just in case. We never know. All right, so here's the easiest part of the whole thing. The fish is ready. It's done. It's simply going to break apart. Falls right apart. So I'm being really gentle with it. If we over shred our fish now, we have to put it on our tacos. We have to move it to a different container. We have to resauce it. We have to reseason it. We never want to make it like a paste. So do your best not to break it up too much now. That way, if we need to break it up smaller later, we can. Okay, so now that we have our fish done, we have our aioli done, and we have our shredded cabbage done. So we have all of that done for our actual tacos. Now we're going to move on to our the mango salsa. So if there are some of us in the room that don't like mango, you can always grill off some pineapple instead. We could do papaya. We could do whatever tropical fruit you'd like to do. If you guys are trying to watch your sugar, simply cut out the fruit altogether, because most fruit is going to have a lot of sugar in it. So if you're really trying to watch your sugar, you can either cut out the mango totally and just do a pico de gallo, or what you can do is add some grilled vegetables to it, or just do all tomatoes, or there are so many different options that we can do if we're trying to watch our sugar, trying to watch our cholesterol, trying to watch all of that good stuff. So if you're not a big fan of the mango that we're going to be doing, you can always do pineapple, you could do grilled vegetables, you could do roasted peppers, you could do whatever you guys want to do. Or if you want to stick with fruit, do some grilled pineapple, do some papaya, do any of those tropical fruits, whatever your favorite is. All right, so let's get started. The mango that we have here, unfortunately, is super green, but it's okay because it works for demonstration purposes. All of the beautiful, ripe, delicious mangoes are waiting for you guys to eat them. So I'm going to show you the ugly one, and then you guys get to eat the pretty ones. So to begin, we are actually going to peel our mango. So some people really like the skin, some people don't like the skin. I would say take it off for the salsa. Personally, I love the skin. I think it's fantastic. I love the texture. I love the flavor. But that's just me. For the salsa, I would say absolutely take it off, because you don't want to be eating that salsa and you're like, what is that? Why is that leathery? So it's really simple to do using a peeler. You can also use a knife. It's completely up to you guys, whatever you'd like to do. Another method that I've also seen is to cut off both sides and then use a spoon to just scoop out the fruit. It's up to you. All right, so we're just gonna make a really, really tiny batch of salsa because I know you guys are hungry because I know I'm hungry too. All right, we're gonna get rid of all of our peel. So again, because I'm gonna be working with peppers, I'm gonna be wearing gloves because I don't wanna cry later on. So I'm just gonna cut these up into nice little bite-sized pieces. This isn't going to get eaten, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm gonna cut it up into nice bite-sized pieces. We have to remember that when we're cooking for little children, when we're cooking for the elderly, when we're cooking for anybody with a medical condition, we don't want them to choke to death on the size of whatever fruit we're cutting, so we gotta be careful with that. All right, next we're gonna do our tomato. So here's the easy way to remove the seeds from the tomato. So it says skinless on your recipe. You can blanch your tomato. I'm not gonna do that because it's really not necessary for you guys to do that. But I'm gonna show you the easy, quick way to remove the seeds. Okay, so if we take our tomato, we're gonna cut it in a T from the core. This way first, and then this way. So we'll end up with 4 pieces when we're finished. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have 4 pieces. So on each of these ends, we have the little stub right there that we have to get rid of. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take just the tip of our knife, we're gonna go in, and then we're gonna go right through. So this takes out all of the seeds, all of the core, and the nub at the very end, leaving only what we want for our salsa. So one more time. So core, I'm gonna hold on to. I'm gonna take just the very tip of my knife. I'm gonna make a small incision where I can see the seeds, and then I'm just gonna scoop them right out with my knife. So now I have the core removed, I have that little stub on the end removed, and I have all my seeds removed. So this is what I want for my salsa. So with all the seeds removed, with all of the insides removed, it's not gonna get watery. All right, for our jalapeno, we are going to be removing the seeds and the ribbing that's on the inside. If you want it to be spicier, leave the seeds, leave the ribbing inside. I'm gonna cut the jalapeno as thin as I can, only because we want the jalapeno to spread out throughout the whole salsa. We don't want one bite to be 90% jalapeno and the rest to not have any jalapeno in it at all. Next for our cilantro. So if your cilantro has really bendy, flexible, soft stems, we don't need to pick it off. You can just cut the entire thing just like that. The cilantro that we got this from had really thick, hard, woody stems, and we don't want that in our salsa. Also, with our fresh herbs, we want to be very gentle with them. We don't want to run our knife through them 100 times. The fewer times we cut them, the better it's going to look in just a couple of hours. The more we cut it up, the more we damage it, and the worse it's going to look in the long run. All right, so we're just going to do the same basic size that we did on everything else inside of our salsa. All right, so then all we have left to do is add our salt, pepper, lemon juice, and lime juice. So over here, this is what I brought to show you guys. This is pure pineapple juice. So this does not have any additives to it. However, a lot of the pineapple juices, especially from concentrate, are gonna have a ton of sugar, a ton of other additives to it. This one is not supposed to have any of that, which is why I brought it to show you guys. If you wanted to instead, you could do fresh pineapple juice. You could substitute all lime juice or lime juice and lemon juice. It's completely up to you guys. Get creative, play around with it. So the same thing with the lime. I'm going to roll it around. I want to make sure that it's as soft as possible so I get the most money out of it. And then again, we don't cut it from the top to the bottom. We cut it down the middle. Hold your hand over, squeeze it inside to make sure we're getting every drop out that we need. Salt and pepper to finish. And if you guys wanted to add other stuff to this, we could. We could add habaneros, we could add serranos, we could add whatever you guys want to add. If you want to add more tropical fruit to it, if you want to take the fruit out of it, the recipe works. You can pretty much substitute whatever item you don't want and put another item in. All right, so I'm just going to mix up my salsa really quick, show you guys really quick, and then we can eat. So this is the basic idea that we're going to end up with. If you want to do a larger dice, you're more than welcome to. If you want to do a smaller dice, you're more than welcome to. If you want to substitute more fruit, if you want to do grilled peaches, if you want to do grilled bananas, you can do whatever you like with it. Basic idea for our salsa.
It's so pretty and colorful.
It's just beautiful. What can I say?